The identity of the Nephilim is one of the most mysterious and intriguing topics in the Bible. These beings are mentioned in Genesis 6, described as giants with a supernatural origin, born from the union of fallen angels and human women. Over time, various traditions have depicted them as cannibals, warriors, and a major reason for God's decision to flood the earth during Noah's time. The debate over the Nephilim's identity. For over 2,000 years, people have debated who the Nephilim were. The controversy begins in Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4, where it says, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, 'My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. When the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, they were the heroes of old, men of renown." Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4. The term sons of God has been interpreted in various ways. Some believe it refers to fallen angels, while others suggest it indicates the descendants of Seth, Adam, and Eve's third son, who intermarried with the descendants of Cain, the son of Adam, and Eve, who killed his brother Abel. The Book of Enoch and the Nephilim. One of the earliest and most detailed accounts of the Nephilim comes from the Book of Enoch, a Jewish text written around 200 BC. Although not included in the Bible, this book provides a fascinating story about the origins of the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch describes how 200 angels, known as the Watchers, were sent to earth to guide and instruct humanity. Instead of fulfilling their divine mission, these angels became corrupt, teaching humanity forbidden knowledge like sorcery, astrology, and even cosmetology. They also seduced human women, and the offspring of these unions were the Nephilim, giant, violent beings who brought chaos to the world. According to the Book of Enoch, these giants became so wicked that their actions prompted God to flood the earth, sparing only Noah and his family. This narrative suggests that the Nephilim were not just physically large but also morally corrupt, embodying the ultimate rebellion against God's order. The influence of the Book of Enoch on the New Testament. Interestingly, the Book of Enoch, despite not being part of the official biblical canon, influenced some New Testament writings. For example, the Epistle of Jude directly quotes from Enoch. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about them. "See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone, and to convict all of them of all the ungodly acts they have committed in their ungodliness, and of all the defiant words ungodly sinners have spoken against him." Jude 1 verses 14 to 15. This quote is almost identical to a passage from 1 Enoch 1:9, showing that early Christians, including Jude, regarded the Book of Enoch as an important text. Furthermore, Jude and the Apostle Peter both refer to the story of the fallen angels from the Book of Enoch, and the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling. These he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. Jude 1 verse 6. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment. 2 Peter 2 verse 4. Both Jude and Peter appear to be drawing from the Enochic tradition, which paints the Nephilim as the offspring of angelic beings who sinned against God by mingling with humans. The Nephilim in the canonical scriptures. The notion of giants born from divine beings and humans is also found in other biblical and deuterocanonical texts. For instance, the Book of Wisdom, a text included in Catholic and Eastern Orthodox Bibles, but excluded from Protestant ones, alludes to the Nephilim. For even in the beginning, when arrogant giants were perishing, the hope of the world, preserved on a raft, took refuge in your hands and left to the world the seed of a new generation. Wisdom 14:6. This verse refers to Noah's Ark, implying that the Nephilim, described here as arrogant giants, were wiped out by the flood. The implication is clear. These beings were a threat to the moral order of the world and had to be destroyed to make way for a new, righteous generation. The role of the Nephilim in ancient theology. The Book of Enoch's depiction of the Nephilim also had a profound impact on early Christian theology. Many of the early church fathers, such as Justin Martyr, Clement of Alexandria, and Origen, believed that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were indeed fallen angels. They argued that these angels' unions with human women produced the Nephilim, who were both physically and morally monstrous. However, this view was later challenged, most notably by St. Augustine, one of the most influential theologians in Christian history. In his monumental work, The City of God, Augustine proposed that the sons of God were not angels but the righteous descendants of Seth. According to Augustine, these righteous men intermarried with the daughters of men, who were the wicked descendants of Cain. This union, he argued, led to the moral corruption of humanity, which ultimately resulted in the flood. Augustine's interpretation marked a significant shift in the understanding of Genesis 6. Over time, his view became the dominant interpretation in Western Christianity, largely supplanting the earlier belief in angelic beings fathering the Nephilim. The Watchers and Tartarus. A key part of the Nephilim story, especially in the Book of Enoch, involves the punishment of the Watchers, the angels who fathered the giants. According to Enoch, God sentenced these angels to Tartarus, a term borrowed from Greek mythology, where it refers to the deepest, darkest part of the underworld, even lower than Hades. The use of the term Tartarus in Enoch and later by Peter in 2 Peter 2 verse 4 suggests a blending of Jewish and Hellenistic ideas. In Greek mythology, Tartarus was the prison of the Titans, the primordial beings who fought against the gods. In Enochic tradition, it became the place where the Watchers were imprisoned for their rebellion against God. This adaptation of Greek concepts into Jewish thought reflects the cultural interactions of the time. The use of Tartarus in the Bible, albeit indirectly, illustrates how Jewish and Christian theology sometimes incorporated elements from surrounding cultures to explain complex spiritual ideas. Reinterpretations and modern theories. Despite the traditional views on the Nephilim, modern scholars have proposed various interpretations of these mysterious beings. One notable theory comes from Michael Heiser, an Old Testament scholar who emphasizes the literal interpretation of Genesis 6 and the Book of Enoch. Heiser argues that the Nephilim were indeed hybrid beings, a mix of human and angelic elements, whose violent and tyrannical nature justified their destruction in the flood. On the other hand, Margaret Barker, another scholar, suggests a more symbolic interpretation. She views the Nephilim as a metaphor for the widespread wickedness and violence in the world before the flood. According to Barker, the story of the Nephilim represents humanity's moral decline rather than a literal account of giant beings. Additionally, some secular theories propose that the Nephilim might have been a memory of ancient giants or large people who lived in the distant past. These theories often suggest that the Nephilim could have been an ancient race of humans, possibly Neanderthals or another group, whose existence was remembered in myth and legend. The Nephilim and Catholic tradition. In Catholic tradition, the most influential theologians, such as St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, did not have access to the Book of Enoch, as it was lost for many centuries. Consequently, their interpretation of the Nephilim was based solely on the canonical texts of the Bible. Augustine and Aquinas interpreted the sons of God in Genesis 6 as righteous men who were corrupted by marrying wicked women. They argued that the offspring of these unions, the Nephilim, were not literal giants but rather fallen ones, symbolizing the moral decline of humanity before the flood. This interpretation became the standard view in Western Christianity and has remained influential in Catholic theology. However, the rediscovery of the Book of Enoch in the 18th century and the subsequent discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 20th century have revived interest in the older, more supernatural interpretations of the Nephilim. Conclusion: the enduring mystery of the Nephilim. The identity and nature of the Nephilim remain one of the most intriguing and debated topics in biblical studies. From their origins as the offspring of fallen angels and human women to their symbolic representation of humanity's moral decline, the Nephilim have captured the imagination of theologians, scholars, and believers for centuries. While the traditional Christian interpretation, as articulated by Augustine and Aquinas, views the Nephilim as symbolic of humanity's sinfulness, the influence of the Book of Enoch and other ancient texts suggests a more complex and mysterious origin for these beings. Whether seen as literal giants, symbolic representations, or a mix of both, the Nephilim continue to fascinate and inspire, reminding us of the mysteries that still surround the ancient world of the Bible.